resolutions, just like talking with gum in your mouth. They're super annoying and pretty hard to keep in and keep in line with. And I never believed in the magic of New Year's resolution. Like, how is making a rule up on the first day of the year supposed to mean that you're going to keep it for the rest of the year? So, to hell with New Year's resolutions, I always said, like, can we swear here? Is that I always said, fuck that shit. If I need to make a rule up, it had better be on something good, like my birthday or the day my grandma died. You know what I'm saying? Like something meaningful. So things changed a little bit for me this year because I also don't believe in keeping secrets, mostly because I'm really bad at it. So I would want people like, listen, please don't tell me that because I'm going to tell somebody else almost immediately. But this year, I started having to keep secrets that I didn't ask for. And that kind of came to me. And it started last New Year's Eve with someone telling me something, you know, pretty dramatic. And then all of a sudden, apparently my mojo started accepting other people's secrets without asking for them. So this entire year has been one long struggle because I can't tell anybody the secrets that people tell me because it's like not polite. And so I'd always have to keep in mind to know, well, maybe I can tell this person because they don't know that person, so it's fine, right? Because it's not really telling the secret because they don't know the person and it's never going to get back to them, so I'm never going to get in trouble. Until I started realizing that I was keeping other people's stories, not just secrets. And the secrets started to get really important. I don't know whether it was growing up or maybe people had a rough year, but all of a sudden I started getting stories about, you know, affairs and corporate scandal and drug addiction. And that's when I kind of had to sit down and I had a choice. I could either continue accepting these secrets that I'm horrible at keeping, or I could just say, you know what, you can't tell me. You can't tell me your story because I don't want to hear it. So about 7 days before New Year's Eve, I was like, that's my New Year's Eve resolution. No more secrets. Like, to hell with it. I can't do it anymore. This is the first resolution I've ever made in my life. I'm not listening to anybody. And I'm just going to say, listen, if you tell me that you killed your grandma's dog when you were 8, I'm going to tell your grandma. If you tell me that you kissed Jimmy in the 7th grade, I'm going to go to Jimmy's wife and I'm going to tell him. Mostly because it's funny, but also because I can't keep secrets. So I made this up and I was firm and I even like wrote it down in a little journal that only I know about. It's secret. And never again am I ever going to keep anybody's secrets. And then about 5 days before New Year's Eve, I actually started putting it into practice and I told somebody a secret that I should not have told. Because again, it wasn't my story to tell, and I had no choice but to accept it. So I apologized to the person that I had told the secret about, and I apologized to the people that I had told the secret to. And it was possibly the most healing thing I've ever experienced because I suddenly realized that secrets are not my inconvenience. Secrets are things that people keep close to themselves, and they have to choose to give it away. So I had to give New Year's resolution, which was to become a secret keeper. Probably the best secret keeper you've ever known. So if you ever need to tell me something, you know, do it because your secret's safe with me. Storyteller, Sarah Smiley. What do I do with these things? Oh, I'll take it.
Well, first, before I tell my story tonight, I just want to say, if you were there last month and you heard me tell the pecan story about my mother-in-law pecan pie story, she was visiting, and we were at Fiddlehead's restaurant after Christmas, waitress came over and said, "I love the story that you told." So after the waitress left, my mother-in-law, of course, said, "What story did you tell?" And so then I had to either tell her the pecan pie story or the first story I told 2 months ago here, which is about us going to a strip club on our anniversary for marriage counseling. So I told her that one, which wasn't any better, probably.
That's her secret.
Yeah. And the waitress kept my secret. I chased her down. Don't say anything. But what I won't ever do again is move. And part of that is because I love Maine. And a lot of people ask, how did you get here from there, when they know that we moved from Florida to Maine. So I thought I would tell that as part of my story and why I won't ever move again. My husband's in the military. He's a Navy pilot. And we knew we were up for we were going to be transferring again. And Dustin brought home a map of the country, and he said, "Sarah, circle the places that would be agreeable to you to move to." And at this time I wanted to get back to Virginia, where our families were. So I took the black marker and I put an X over all of the country, and I circled Virginia. And I said, that's where I want to be, because we'd been away from Virginia for 10 years. And Dustin said, well, if you had to pick 6, because see, the Navy plays this little game where they say, give us 6 of your places you want to go out of this list of 18. And then they pretend like they're going to send you where you want to go, but then they'll send you somewhere else. I've decided that it's really a guy gets blindfolded and just starts throwing darts at a map about where they'll send you. But Dustin said, we got to come up with our preference of 6 places out of this big list. And so we went back and forth for weeks. I knew I wanted to be near Virginia. There wasn't really Virginia on the list, but Pennsylvania was close. So we put that up like number 1. Dustin has family in Washington State, so that was up there around the top. But this was all a draft, and we kept going back and forth, erasing and rewriting our list as if the Navy was really going to care. But then Dustin came home one day. This is Florida. Our list is still a draft, and it's so hot. It was February, and I'm washing the car with the kids running around, and Dustin says, oh, funny thing, they added Bangor, Maine as one of the options. And Dustin's dad grew up in Bangor, on Buck Street actually, but they left when he was like 12. So Dustin thought that was interesting since he had some connection to Bangor. I was washing the car and I laughed and I said, good thing we're not having that on our list. And he said, oh, actually I added it as number 7. Remember, we only had to pick 6. I said, why did you put it as number 7? Well, we're going to erase that when we do our final draft. And Dustin said, oh, by the way, I turned in the list today. And it was a very ugly night. I was crying and yelling at him, and he kept saying, Sarah, I put it number 7 on a list of 6. They'll never send me there. Well, of course, he thinks what happened is that the detailer who's in charge of sending you where you're going to go, matching up job requirements with who needs to move, is that he got this list that he had to fill for Bangor, Maine, and nobody probably put on their list, and he probably said, oh, this guy put it on his list, it's number 7, but we'll send him there. So all along, Dustin, I kept saying, I cannot believe you put that. I didn't even know where Bangor was, except for that his dad had grown up there. So April Fool's Day, Dustin came home from work. I was in the bathroom blow drying my hair, and he brought a kitchen chair in with him, and he sat it down and he said, I think you need to sit down. And I sat down and he said, we're moving to Bangor, Maine. And I said, well, have fun, because I'm not. But I came, mostly because I found a house that I loved online. Immediately went to Realtor.com, picked the house that we now live in. And I said, I'll try this. I'll give it a try. He said, it's only going to be 2 years. And I said, I can do anything for 2 years. So he moved me up here, but he had to finish out 2 or 3 more months in Pensacola before he could move up here with us. So it was just me and the kids. The kids were starting school, and that was why I came up early. And I completely fell in love with Bangor and Maine in those 2 months. And Dustin would call, and I would say, Dustin, I love it here, and I'm never moving again. And we're military, so we've moved all over the place. And Dustin said, well, wait till I get up there at least, you know, and remember, I'm in the military, I'm going to move. And I said, no, this is the first time I've ever felt at home at a place, and we've lived a lot of places. And I knew it instantly in those first 2 months. And people often ask me, what was it about Bangor that you fell in love with? Especially people who've grown up in Bangor. They say, what did you fall in love with in Bangor? Part of it was that a lot of places we had lived, especially in Florida, were subdivisions. They had the 6-foot privacy fences, you know, going along all the back. We never knew our neighbors. The kids didn't know their neighbors. They played in a box in our backyard and couldn't see who was on either side. And I love here how our kids run all through the neighborhood and everyone knows us and sends the kids back when they get into trouble, which is often. And I love the schools and the people and just everything about Maine. And I'm not ever moving again. Dustin has to. But I'm not. He's going to finish out his time and then he'll come back here and we'll all stay in Maine because I've learned just in the short time we've been here that it really is the way life should be. Lindsay. Oh, really? Yeah, Lindsay.
From the good sides of Maine to the bad sides of Maine. That's a perfect segue. So I'm going to start my story in 2008, March, and at that time I was working at a rock climbing store that's here in town, Alpenglow, just up the street. And Alpenglow does a lot of rock climbing things. During the summertime, they'll take people out on these guided trips out to Acadia. It's very cool. But during the wintertime, they still have to make money as well. And they do these very small guided tours up to Baxter State Park to climb Mount Katahdin, thank you. Mount Katahdin is the tallest mountain in Maine, and it's not something that people want to do necessarily during the wintertime, but there are a few people that do want to do this. And so the thing with Baxter State Park is they want to know who's going to be climbing Mount Katahdin during the winter, and there's a permit system. So your name has to be on this permit, and there's 4 people to a permit plus a guide. You have to get on one of these things in order to be able to do this sort of thing. So it's kind of a coveted position. I was not on this permit, but somebody backed out, and they said, Lindsay, we need another person to be on this permit. Please, will you go do this in March 2008? Cold darkness on top of the tallest mountain in Maine, northern forest sort of style. I said, well, let me ask you a few questions first. How tall is this mountain? And they said, oh, it's a mile above sea level, 5,000 something feet. And I'm from Colorado where there's 14 something feet. And I was like, you and your 5,000 foot mountain. Yes, I will go climb. Is it going to be cold? Obviously, yes. Yes, Lindsay, it's going to be cold. And so that was my big concern, was just staying warm during that night. So I went up there with the guide and 3 other grown adult men. There was one in his retired person who had done this many times before, and then 2 other very robust 30 to 40-year-old men that decided to go do this. And they're like, thank you, Lindsay, for coming on the permit. And I said, no problem. I've got 14,000 blood. I kept talking about the fact that I was from 14,000 foot mountain land, and they were all very excited about that fact. And so was I, because they were excited. So it was like this reciprocal thing. As my head continued to grow, we got into Baxter State Park, and we walked into Abel Campground. Anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. A couple of people out there. So Abel Campground has lean-tos, which are just like A-frame houses without a front. I was concerned about being cold, of course, like I already said, and so all night long, I had all these clothes on, and my sleeping bag was going to be below 0. I was not cold. I met that goal, no problem. I stayed warm all night long. So we woke up at 4 a.m. to hike up to Mount Katahdin, and I took off my glasses, I put my contacts in, at 4 a.m. I'm sticking things in my eye, and they're like, here is your pickaxe, and here is your helmet, and here are your crampons. I was like, wow, what am I really in for here? I'm just hiking a mountain, right? I said, yeah, but it's Mount Katahdin, and it's winter, and you need all these things. I said, okay, well, no problem. Crampons are like claws that you put onto your boot so that you can claw into ice, like a billy goat, climbing up this mountain. Okay, so we're climbing up the mountain, no problem. I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm from Colorado. We do this, we take a little break, I'm drinking lots of water. This is okay. And we actually had really, really good weather that day. So we get on top and it's blue skies and I take a lot of pictures next to that sign. Maybe we've all seen it, the brown one, Katahdin. And that's good. And so we're starting to go back down. And all these guys that I'm with, including the guide, are like, this is an amazing day. We're going to get back to the cars by 3 o'clock. And I'm like, yes, we will. Oh my God! I'm just like looking back down on this trail that we had hiked, which is Abal Slide, hence Abal Campground. Abal Slide is like this rock slide that occurred, I don't even know when, but it's a rock slide. So there's like these jutting rocks that are on a very extreme slope. Extreme, I don't even know what to say kind of degree. It's like if you're trying to walk with a straight foot like this, you know, like you have to go on these little treks side to side to side so that your foot stays level. And if you tip like this, just like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? You're going to fall down the mountain and hit your head on one of these rocks that are jutting up straight from the mountainside. I was terrified. I was like paralyzed. I couldn't. It's a horrible, horrible thing to even think about. So I'm starting to freak out, but I'm trying to play it cool because we're going to get to the cars by 3 p.m. And everybody goes ahead of me. I was like, you go ahead. I'm just going to tie my crampon tighter. I don't know. It was obvious that I was starting to freak out, so the guy stayed back with me. And as my glasses, or we were wearing goggles because of the sun blend, and you know, as my goggles started to fog up because I was crying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. The guy showed me how to like fall safely and put that pickaxe into the snow so that I wouldn't slide and bash my head in. It was super heavy stuff. I got down, we did not get to the cars by 3 p.m. Not even close, it was like 7, and all the guys were like, I don't know why they didn't think it was scary. It was terrifying. And when my boyfriend picked me up from Alpenglow here in town, he was like, so tell me about it, so tell me about it. And I said, well, I stayed warm. But I will never do that again.